Right. Now, today we have a truly special guest who is no stranger to the world of health and wellness. Joining us is Stephen Hicks, a seasoned fitness professional and podcast veteran. Stephen brings a unique and holistic approach to health. So sit back, relax, and get ready for an enlightening conversation packed with practical advice, inspiring stories, and plenty actionable takeaways. So, Steve, would you if you want to expound on your credentials or add anything to more what I've said, this is your opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a fitness coach. I've been a personal trainer since 2010. So at the time of recording, I've just passed my 15-year anniversary in this field. And I've got my bachelor's degree in exercise science. So really combination of experience and a lot of academic training as well. So really knowledgeable there. I hold the CSCS, which is the industry's top certification. But more importantly than that, what really distinguishes me is that I've got a piece of hardware in my left leg, right? I've got a steel rod, 5 pins, and 3 screws in my left leg, which has helped me radically redefine my definition of what fitness and wellness even looks like anymore. So that's a big part of I that's a big part of my message, and kind of a lot of what we want to share is how accessible fitness really is and how it really elevates us no matter where we're starting from.
Okay, so how did it really start, your journey? I know you segue and segue into what you really say, but if you want to expound on that part,
Yeah.
what,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I feel like the early part of my career, same exact origin story as 90% of fitness professionals, right? We were some washed up athletes, couldn't quite let it go, so we hung out in the gyms and we started training people and we just wanted to make other people turn into athletes, right? I think that's the origin story for most, but mine has a couple detours that are not usual in the fitness industry. I've been actively trying to step away from athletics 3 different times in my career. And I think that's given me a completely different perspective. So, originally, while I was getting my bachelor's degree in exercise sciences, I was a student strength coach at Washington State University with the athletic department. So I was a student strength coach. I was an assistant strength coach with the basketball team, with the tennis team, with the track team, and with a few other teams there, helping develop the athletes. But because it was college, I was a young kid. I was 21, 22 at the time. I started working at the student rec center as a personal trainer just to get some beer money on the weekends. And I noticed I noticed the changes that happened in the general population and just general wellness was life changing. Like there was one of my clients, Danny, was kind of shy, kind of timid. And I remember like he moved really awkwardly. And as we got more experience, as we trained more, like he got so much more self confidence. He was coming in and he was radiating from the inside out. And I saw, in athletics, I can help someone get a little bit faster or jump a little bit higher. But in wellness, you can radically change who a person is and open up life's opportunities. So my first detour came there where I decided that I wanted to do general fitness instead of athletics. And then I'll skip the second detour and kind of go to 2019. I had an accident in 2019, June 14th. I was laying in the fetal position in a Las Vegas hotel, clutching my left leg. I had just fractured my tibial plateau, which is the top flat portion on your shin. My shin had kind of split open down the middle, and my
Oh,
femur was puncturing down there. My cartilage got disconnected and shoved into my shin bone. It was really gnarly. And I remember I had surgery to reconstruct the joint. It ended up taking about 7 to 9 hours. It went 3.5 hours over schedule. There was a lot of the damage was extensive. Now I've got hardware in my left side, and I remember laying in in my bed after the surgery, kind of wondering like what am I going to do as a personal trainer who's really been kind of obsessed about it? My whole identity kind of was in that fitness space. And if I can't push my body to the limits, like what am I going to do? Right? It took me 4 months of bed rest to recover from that surgery, to heal from that level of damage. And then like 2 years of physical therapy too. But like as a personal trainer, I couldn't walk around the gym anymore. I couldn't squat heavy weights. I couldn't push my body. I can't jump. I can't sprint. Like if I there's so many limitations, like is fitness even something that I care about? And I remember crutching into my brother's house one day, and my nephew, he was like 4 or 5 at the time. He got so excited. Like something that didn't come up in my bio, Lorna, is that I'm the world's best uncle. Like I got a t-shirt back home that proves it.
Good for
And
you.
my nephew was so excited that I was there. He came running down the hallway, Uncle's home, Uncle's home. And
Right.
my brother had to catch him and tell him to stop. And Connor, you can't jump on Uncle right now. He's hurt. And there was so much pain in my nephew's face when he looked at me because who I was had changed. Like I was no longer the fun uncle. And I
Mhm.
realized in that moment that fitness is not about pushing our bodies to the limit. It's about having the capability of living life the way you want to with the people that you want to. Health and fitness is a gateway that opens up life's best opportunities. And now, as I run a wellness program called Thriving Body Holistic Fitness, because I just want people to thrive in their body, thrive through their life. And I think that our best lives live in a healthy body, which just makes sense. Like your whole experience is in this vessel. If your vessel is damaged and torn down and incapable, your life experience is going to be damaged and held back. As your body gets better, everything else in life gets better with it.
I agree with you 100% because I don't know if you're the biblical, but this our body is supposed to be the vessel of the Lord. This is our, this, and we treat everything else, but sometimes we treat our car better than our bodies. We make sure they're taken care of and everything. And we don't do all of that to our bodies. So I agree with you. And also I work in the hospital environment,
Mm.
and sickness is very expensive. When you're ill, it can wipe out your whole life savings.
Well,
So
well, there's the financial component to it, but there's
yes.
also, when we talk about cost, we also have to talk about the opportunity cost of sickness and illness. We obviously know medications are going to cost you money, doctor visits are going to cost you money, but that's all going to cost you time as well, being in and out of the hospitals. But it's also there's so much life that we lose, not just the years at the end of the life, but I was talking with someone in my backyard a couple of years ago. There was a Facebook group, a local Facebook group, and someone had posted in there like, "Hey, does anyone know any lakes that I can just like park and walk to? I can only walk about 25 steps unassisted, so I need to be able to park right on the water side." And nobody had any answers for her. She really wanted to spend that summer on the waterfront, but because I believe she had COPD, so she had troubles breathing if she walked too far. She was very overweight, and there were no options for her, right? There's just that illness took away all the waterfront summer activities. She wanted to be out in the sun, she wanted to be happy with her family, and she physically could not be.
Yeah, yes. And you know what happened with the remote work also? I find that
Mm.
remote work can make you ill, because you normally when you in the working environment, you get up, you talk to your friends, you go downstairs, you walk around lunchtime. Remote work, sometimes you sit there, you don't even know the time has gone. You've been sitting there for like 3 hours, and it's not good for you. It affects your circulation, it affects your whole body.
Yeah.
And it's nice to do it, but people need to be conscious that they need to get up, walk around, set your watch, whatever it needs to do, that you get up and walk those 15 minutes.
Yeah, and that's a very important thing. Like we can go action step number one. In my coaching program, I usually talk to people about activity, not necessarily exercise. The body needs activity to be healthy. The body needs activity to be at its very best. But there's two types of activity, right? There's exercise activity that everyone's familiar with, very obvious. But the one that makes the biggest impact, that's a little bit tougher to see sometimes, is that non-exercise physical activity, what I call NEPA, NEPA, non-exercise physical activity. And that's why we got those smart watches that track our steps. Like you mentioned, like working in an office setting, you kind of walk around, you socialize, go to the water cooler, you have to go, way down the hall for the bathroom trips. Like with a lot of the digitalization and the remote work, a lot of people's NEPA levels, their non-exercise physical activity has just plummeted. So that is one of the things that we can do to be healthy, right? If you do have a step tracker, the average American right now is averaging about 3,000 steps a day, which is not health inducing. So my recommendation would be, if you do have a step tracker, either an app on your phone or a smartwatch on your wrist, start to look for 5,000 steps a day.
Mhm.
Research really finds most health benefits come in at about 7,000. And if you're looking for weight loss, once you hit those marks consistently, getting up to 10,000 steps a day will also help you with the weight loss efforts I found in my experience with clients.
Absolutely. Because some of those steps you can put them in during the daily work in the kitchen, cooking, whatever. Those steps are being counted there
Yeah.
too. Cleaning the house or whatever.
Yeah.
Steps are added up there too.
Yeah, one of my favorite people that I follow, one of my favorite influencers, if you will, Sean Croxton. He's got his life philosophy: little by little, a little becomes a lot, right? And that's one of the
Those.
things about NEPA is that non-exercise physical activity. It's not as obvious, it's not as big, but little by little, a little becomes a lot.
And for folks getting ready to retire, nobody wants to be retiring and spending the time in a hospital. You want to be able to travel to visit your family and to socialize and do things, and some of the illnesses are coming on you,
Yeah.
are things that your family have to visit in your hospital or taking you to the hospital to get the treatment. So I I think it's very important for us to be truly sensitized and really
Yeah.
work towards having a good, healthy, long life. My
Yeah.
grandmother died at 107. Yes.
That's, you know what? One of the crazy things I always tell people, my secret goal in life is to live to 120. And I
Well, that's
tell,
in the Bible. It says that. That's that's
yeah,
that's what is in the Bible. 120 years.
yeah.
That's what we're
Well,
given.
I tell my mother that, and she says she couldn't imagine suffering that long, but I don't plan to suffer a day of that.
My my grandmother was a walker. She didn't like cars and all that. Anywhere she going, she walked. When she
Yeah.
she was in Jamaica, and when she died, she got up the morning and said that she wanted some porridge, and they made some porridge for her. And then she said she wanted some bananas, ripe bananas, and they gave her the ripe banana. She just went in the bed and she just lied and she just passed like that. Not
Oh.
a problem.
Yeah,
No problem.
one of my heroes, Jack LaLanne, he passed at 96, but he was a huge, huge fitness influencer in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. Um, and the day before he passed, he swam 3 miles at 96. So it's not one of those things. We do have a lot of misconceptions around aging and decline, but if you use it or lose it, right? And yeah, yeah, I think really fitness does just kind of enhance everything.
And the food we eat. A lot of in Jamaica, people have their own little gardens in the back. You
Oh,
plant your
yeah.
stuff and then you just go in the garden and dig up whatever you want and cook. So we have too much processed food, man. Everything is processed. It's like, and you don't even have the stuff when you look at the label. You can't pronounce the word, and I'm saying if I can't pronounce it, why am I eating it?
Yeah. Well, I try to get more foods that don't have labels. So,
Yeah, yeah, yes, yes, yes. Keep away from that. So in your journey, what are some of the misconceptions that people have about wellness that you've encountered? What are some of the misconceptions you've
yeah,
encountered?
I mean, in fitness and nutrition, there's nothing but misconceptions most of the time.
There you go. There you go.
No, I think some of the biggest misconceptions is just kind of the amount of effort that it takes. It definitely does take effort. You do, and as you mentioned, we do live in an environment that does not support us. We live in what we call an obesogenic environment, an environment that makes obesity very easy. And there's a lot of social pressures that push us in that obesogenic environment too. So we do have to be honest. To be healthy, to be fit and active, you are going to have some effort to go against the grain, but we don't need nearly as much effort as we've been told with the people that are like, hey, no pain, no gain, give 110%. We don't need to do that. Those ideas all came from the old fitness industry. If you look at the history of the fitness industry, and as a history buff, I always go into the history of stuff that I get interested in. But the history of the industry really comes out of bodybuilding and professional sports. Fitness culture used to be called physical culturists, and physical culturists were just bodybuilders and strongman, really people that had muscle for the sake of muscle. In the 80s, because Arnold Schwarzenegger was getting a lot more popular, and because athletes like Bo Jackson and the Boz were physically larger and more dominant than other people, they were making more money than others. So professional athletes started asking bodybuilders, how do you get bigger? And then in the 90s, when we got the obesity epidemic, that was the definition of fitness, was bodybuilding and pro sports. So for that population, if you're a bodybuilder or if you're a pro athlete, you do absolutely have to kick your butt with some super high intensity. But if you're looking to support your body, nurture your body, elevate your natural biology, just keeping functions running, you don't need to kick your butt as much. In fact, I always tell people that the more you fight your body, the more the body has to fight back against you. If you support and nudge the body, you can move together in the direction you want to be. So I think the biggest misconception is that it's got to be this max effort, just Herculean, difficult. You got to be the toughest person in the gym, and you really don't. If you want to be Dwayne The Rock Johnson, yes. If you want to be healthier like your grandmother or like Jack LaLanne, no, you don't need those big efforts. And little things, like we mentioned earlier, little by little, a little becomes a lot. We do need consistency, and we do need to go against the grain of our unhealthy culture standards, but we don't have to torture ourselves for it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I I think you mentioned something about holistic multipliers. Can you
Yeah.
explain the concept for us?
Ooh, that's my favorite. So, yes. So my coaching program is known as the Thriving Body Holistic Fitness. It's composed of two components. One's Thriving Body. That's an evolutionary anthropology model that describes how your human biology operates. But the second one is the holistic aspect. And this is something that we just know intuitively. Everybody and their dog knows, like, you can exercise and you will get health benefits and you'll get improvements if you just exercise, but you're not going to get as much as if you exercise and have good nutrition, right?
Right,
That's a pairing that people just know. And it's very obvious to think, hey, if I'm exercising and if I get good sleep, if I get good sleep, I'll have more energy to be able to exercise a little bit better. I'll recover so that I get more results from my exercise. If I pair these, they support each other, right? And
right.
there's multi-directional relationships between these. Now, That's intuitive. We understand that if we do other things in life and healthy lifestyles, they'll support and they'll lift people up. But we never really
Mhm.
understand the power of this. One of the ways that I think about this is in a business sense, right? Like Lorna, like you're from Jamaica. They have some incredible jerk chicken down there, right? Do you have a Jamaican recipe you're really proud of?
I like the oxtail.
You're
I
you're
like
good with oxtail?
yes.
So if I go down to Florida and you give me like if you're cooking me, you're gonna cook some oxtail and that's the thing that's gonna wow me.
If you like oxtail, some people don't like it.
Okay. So let's say you and I, we're gonna open like a stand that just
Hmm.
sells your homemade oxtail recipe, right?
Hmm.
And if we were to sell, like if we were open 10 days, 10 days a year, right? Once a month, and we had 10 customers that came to us, and let's say like we made the oxtail and we sold it for $10, right?
Hmm.
We would have a $1,000 pop-up restaurant, right? 10 times 10 times 10. And if we wanted to make twice as much money, like, Lorna, how do you think we would make twice as much money? We have 10 customers, they spend $10 10 times a year. How do we make twice as much money?
We probably have to find new customers
Yeah,
to add
that
to
is
the
the
10.
number one answer. Everybody always says, hey, if you can double your customers, you'll make more money, right? And it's true. If you have 20 customers that buy $10 oxtail dish for 10 times a year, you have a $2,000 business. But there's a lot of danger with doing that. To double your customers, you have to have more ads because you have to find them. So you're spending money on ads.
You have to
You have
find
to
them.
get more oxtail to actually cook and serve. So you have more food expense. If you're serving twice as many people, you probably need to get some help. So now you're paying an employee. You've got a lot. You're serving twice as many people. So you're working twice as hard. You have more efforts, more expenses. And that means you have less profits. You get less rewards for all of that, right? That's a terrible way to do business. Another option is we can take a holistic approach to business. We can improve. I said there's three categories, right? You have the amount of customers, how much they spend, and how often they buy. If we improve each of those instead of doubling, but just by 30%, right? So now we get 13 customers, right? That buy, maybe we throw in a little side. Now they're spending $13, or yeah, I don't know what a good side would be with oxtail, but we add a side dish. So now they're paying $13. And, instead of once a month, we encourage them, hey, come on over like during the holidays and on your birthday. So they come in 13 times a year, right? 13 times 13 times 13. I'll do the math so that the audience doesn't have to
169.
think. That's that is
Mhm.
$2,197, right? So it's more than doubled, and we have lower expenses. We're not working twice as hard, so we're enjoying all the rewards we get from it. So more money, less effort, and more profits, more rewards. That makes things way better with just a 30% increase instead of doubling. Most people, when they go to fitness, they try to double their workouts. They try to double their nutrition. Or we talked about steps earlier. Most people are averaging 3,000 steps a day. With the typical fitness advice, what their standard in the fitness industry is 10,000 steps a day. That's tripling your steps. That's 200% increase. That's just too much to ask for. Now, in my program, we have 6 areas of a healthy lifestyle. They're mindset, activity, sleep, nutrition, stress management, and supportive community. When you have 6 variables that work together, right, with business, you only have three, and you had to get a 30% increase. With 6 variables, you only need a 10% increase, and they multiply each other across the board, right? So compare and contrast common approach versus the holistic multiplier. Most of the time, if you were to rate your workouts on a scale of 1 to 10, right? Most people think that they need to go gung ho and get at least an 8 or above, right? Most of my clients are human. They have work demands, they have family
Okay.
obligations. It's also not their top priority. I do fitness for people who don't love fitness, right? So when you rate your workouts, most of my clients put themselves probably somewhere like a 3 or a 4, right? But if you're at a 3 with exercise and you're also doing good in nutrition, that bumps that up to a 4. If you also take care of your sleep and good quality sleep, that bumps that up to a 5. We also know that psychology, your mindset, does change your physiology. So now your mindset changes your activity, bumps that up to a 6, right? Stress management affects your hormonal levels, right? That's going to affect the results of your workouts. If you get stress management under control, then that bumps you up to a 6, right? And then you get the supportive or sorry, bumps that up to a 7. And then you get the supportive community that makes you more consistent, that makes it more enjoyable, that gives you more joy. That bumps it up to an 8. You can go from a real life human being at a 3, and with the holistic multipliers, all the things that support and elevate, you can get the results of an 8. And
Oh,
I think that's wildly impactful.
yes, yes. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've got a lot of client testimonials and success stories that back this up too. Like my client Amanda, she came to me after her and her coworkers did a Biggest Loser challenge, and they did not succeed, right? The Biggest Loser challenge, they wrote it up. It was a very high intensity workout. It was a very restrictive diet, and they hated it and were not the most consistent, right? Because they hated it and they didn't want to do it and it was miserable. Um, and my client Amanda came to me and her coworkers looked at the program that I offered her and said, "Dude, this is way too little. This guy's just took your money and wasted your time,
Oh,
wasted your
wow.
efforts."
Hmm.
But 12 weeks later, when she completed my program, she was down 25 pounds. She was smiling. She had the energy to play with her kids now, and she kept it off for 2 years. Right. So
Wow.
there's you don't have to kill yourself. If
Yeah.
you generally take care of yourself in a holistic fashion, small efforts multiply across to elevate and get you better results.
So basically, it sounds like the consistency is a major factor too, to make sure that
It,
you're
it definitely
consistent.
is.
Yeah.
Consistency is a major factor, but I think it's a lot easier to be consistent when the efforts are smaller, right? If you have to go
Yes.
out and you have to try to CrossFit, you have to try to keep up with some pro athlete, and you're just starting, like you're gonna be so sore. I've seen so many people start workout plans and be so sore in their legs that they struggle to get off the toilet the next day. And then when you go back to the workout the next day, you're like, dude, I don't want that. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this anymore. The moment you can't get off the toilet is the moment you quit. And that doesn't happen to my clients because we take a
It's
much more
true.
gentle, a much more reasonable approach.
It's true. When sometimes we go, you do some of the stuff that I asked you to do. You have to soak in you have to soak in the bath to
Yeah,
just
the
get
hot
relief,
Epsom salts.
Epsom salt.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
there are, I mean, there's we talked about it with the misconception. There's a lot of people that think they have to just go balls to the wall. They have to go as hard as possible and they fight their body. If you fight the body will fight back. If you support and nudge the body, you can go together.
you can't just the whole body becomes traumatized. Some muscles that you never used to use. Say, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Okay. So I know your approach is different. So how do you balance the assertive, domineering voices in the fitness industry with your more nurturing and supportive approach? Your approach is more, as you said, not the rah rah rah.
Yeah, I'm
So,
not Jillian Michaels.
so
Yeah, so
how do you
that
balance
is a
it?
really That is a really interesting thing. When you look at the vast majority of the fitness industry, the fitness space is dominated by that masculine energy, that assertive, domineering, like we're out here to conquer something type energies. Um, and that's fine. For the people that that works for, the people that are on the Jocko Wilkins camp, the people that are like in the David Goggins world, like it's out there. It's available. There's a lot of resources out there for you. But most of my clients aren't trying to fight the world when they work out. They're not trying to fight themselves. They're not trying to conquer something. They want to feel better. And me being a wellness based fitness professional, it usually just tends to be that support and nurture. Like I said, you don't have to fight the body. In fact, that will cause the body to fight you. If you can support and nurture yourself, it elevates your body, it elevates your functions, it elevates the quality of life, and it allows you to continue on.
So okay, suppose somebody listening to this podcast wants some advice on how to start their fitness and wellness journey. What how would you steer them in the correct direction to start this new fitness and wellness journey? Someone listening to the podcast here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a couple ways to go about this, right? If you want, there's there is I used to be a distance runner when I was a kid. I was a long distance runner, so I really love this Kenyan proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And so if you're starting out and you need some support, I would, if it's viable and if you're comfortable and vulnerable, I would encourage getting some coaching, some support. It's something that I offer. I have an online program, so you can work with me anywhere in the world. Um, Sometimes that's not the right first step for people. Sometimes they need to get their feet wet. Um, and to get started, I have a exercise book, Your First Simple Workout, that's got an 8 week program that gets you started. It's taking that support and nurture focus, and it gives you the black and white what exercise to do. It also tells you exactly how to adjust things and personalize based on your schedule, based on your goals, based on your interests. So it allows you to personalize the workout as well. I normally sell that, but just to be helpful, I'm gonna go ahead and make a page on my site that your listeners can get that workout guide for free, and that's
Okay.
gonna be thrivingbody.fit/podcast gift, and I'll offer that out so that you can get started with an 8 week workout plan that is just getting you started, and then finally, I guess there's a couple other things, right? Um, if you're not sure if working out is ready for you yet, we talked about non-exercise physical activity. That is really healthful. That is really health giving. So just taking a walk, getting breaks in during the day to get some activity, spending less time on your butt cheeks is the goal. So whether that is parking further at the grocery store and walking up and down each aisle, even the aisles you don't need to be in, that's a little dangerous. There's a little trick to this. Don't buy the food that you don't plan to eat. But you get some extra steps going up and down the aisles. The basic things, right? Avoid elevators if it's just one flight of stairs. If you have the joints that allow you to walk upstairs. Just getting started. Doing 5 minutes of stretching can also help. You can find some simple stretches on YouTube. You can even find stretches on my YouTube channel. I got an exercise library that's got like 250 exercise demonstrations on YouTube. Um, but just 5 minutes of activity is better than 0 minutes of activity. So you can just get
Definitely.
started at home. And then if you have any specific questions and you want to just get an expert opinion, like go ahead and shoot me an email. My email is steven@thrivingbody.fit. That's STEVEN at thrivingbody.fit. And that'll connect you. I'm happy to answer questions too. God, that was a lot. That was a lot. I'm not good at being brief.
No. That was
So
great. The thing is,
yeah.
what?
So one is get a
Yeah.
coach if you're open to getting a coach. If you want a plan, go to thrivingbody.fit/podcast gift and I will give you an 8-week plan. Just do some basic activity. And if you need some specific recommendations and want some advice, shoot me an email.
Okay. Well, I will put that in my podcast notes.
Awesome.
If you send me the links and what have you, I'll put that in the podcast now.
Absolutely.
So accountability. How can
Huge.
people stay accountable to the fitness and wellness school? What's the
Yeah,
best
so
way?
there's a few angles to take on this. First, I think we just need to define accountability. Accountability is wildly misunderstood, grossly misunderstood, and that misunderstanding is what causes people to fail. My biggest frustration is when people come and they say, "Hey, I need somebody to keep me accountable." That language pattern, when we say that we need something external to keep us accountable to our own promises, puts power away from yourself and puts power outside of you. And once that thing wraps up, you lose that power. You have no responsibility left, and you're going to set yourself up for failure. What I prefer is people finding things that they're accountable to. That keeps responsibility on yourself, internal, but it does give you that external support network and that little bit of peer pressure and that reminder to keep that promise. If we look at the word accountability, it actually means the ability to make an account of, right? So essentially accountability at its truest best form is like accounting. It's like bookkeeping. You say that you're going to do an activity, you check the box for however much activity you did, and then you report that. Me as a coach, I'm supposed to kind of operate like the IRS. I'm supposed to audit what your promises were. I'm supposed to audit what your actions were. By saying that you're being accountable to me, we're part of this conversation. If I don't see those numbers, I get to pester you and remind you of what your promise was. If there's challenges that pop up that keep you from keeping your promises, we can strategize and work on that together. Or, just sometimes knowing that someone else knows about your promise when you don't feel like keeping that promise, it puts additional pressure because you have to tell someone that you didn't. And that's always uncomfortable and you don't want to admit it. So you do it anyway, right? But the big key point is accountability is not someone keeping you accountable. It's not giving power to an external force. It is making account to. It's still your responsibility. It's still your actions. It's still your promises. You still have to maintain that power and that responsibility. It's just something else that adds some pressure, adds some enjoyment, adds some accountability. Does that make sense?
Yes. What I find for myself, I keep a journal and I write things like that in there.
Yeah.
So you can easily catch when you slip in, as opposed to, oh my gosh, I've slipped so far and you can't climb out of the
Yeah,
hole.
absolutely.
But if you keep a journal, I find that.
Yeah. So one of the big things in the coaching program, I talk about there's 5 levels of accountability or there's 5 types of accountability. In the journal is kind of this quasi external but still internal, right? Because it's you keeping a promise to yourself and then checking in and making a count of whether you did that promise or not.
Right. Absolutely. So the whole issue of body image and self-esteem, in your fitness and wellness philosophy, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, body image is a complex issue for sure. The vast majority of fitness, like I mentioned earlier, the history of it comes from bodybuilding, right? So
Right.
there is a lot of insecurity in fitness, and our history is based around body image. So that's been the standard for 30, 40 years before the obesity epidemic even started. I try to get away from that narrative as soon as we can. Instead of, I mean, Look, there is definitely benefit when your body looks better. You get more self-pride about that. You do get
Oh,
more
yes.
confidence when you look in the mirror. There is
Hmm.
benefit to it. However, when it's the primary driver, when it's the first thing that people talk about and it's the only thing that measure, the problem is that it takes a significant amount of time for the body image to actually change. And people get disheartened and then they get insecure, and our brains make terrible logs. We don't remember what we looked like 3 days ago because we see ourselves so often. We forget 3 days ago and we just replace everything with the present. We forget what we looked like 2 months ago and replace everything with the present. So we never get to see that and make progress unless you have the photo snapshots that are just specific points in time that cannot be altered. Our brains do a lot of bad to us when body image is the top focus. What I like to do is I like to talk about the short-term instantaneous results, and that's usually body sensations, body feelings, how our body feels. When you do a workout, do you have more energy than when you started the workouts? When you're consistent with the workouts, how is your energy throughout the day? How is your physical capability? One of the first results all my clients always talk about, it's the first one. That's the moment they know they're getting something, is when they say, hey, I walked up the stairs today and I didn't even notice, but I ran up the stairs and I felt fine at the top of the flight. I used to get so winded walking upstairs. I don't even know. I guess this is working.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I like to shift the conversation away from how you're looking because it gets really tricky, it gets really messy, and it's difficult for our brains to remember. And I like to shift to how are you feeling? Do the joints feel better? Are you having less pains in the morning when you wake up? Do you have more energy throughout the day? Do you feel better immediately after that workout? Can you walk up the stairs effortlessly? How many trips does it take you to wrap up the groceries? Like there's quality of life measures that we can look at first.
Hey, and this is my final question that I like to ask. I like to
Yeah,
ask this
absolutely.
question. What is the legacy you, Stephen Hicks, hope to leave in the fitness and wellness industry? What is your legacy? What is it you want people to remember about you?
Yeah, that is holy smokes. Way to just take a gut punch question there. That is a deep question. I the impact that I really want to make is I do want to drive the narrative towards wellness. I think there's a lot of lip service towards wellness right now, but because a lot of people, like I said, the come up to fitness professionals is usually through athletics. And as much as we talk about wellness, our personal bias is still in pushing the body to the limits. I was fortunate that I had 4 months of bed rest and 2 years of rehab to recapture ability because I got to learn that pushing the body to the limits not an option for me. No longer my bias. It is just being better every single day, just feeling amazing. Because I think life is such a really special gift. It's mathematically impossible that we're alive. We only get one shot at this, and I think that through fitness and through wellness, we get to enjoy it so much more. And I think that's really what I want is I want my legacy changing the conversation towards actual wellness that makes people's day to day feel so much better.
All right. Awesome. 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 And I'm sure, a lot of our young people, the children that's coming up,
Mhm.
I'm sort of sorry for them because they sit at these games the whole day, sometimes all in the wee night. So I'm hoping that that legacy will spin off to them also.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So here we are. So I want to take a moment to express a deep gratitude for having you today and all those golden nuggets that you gave us. And I just want our listeners to remember the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So
Mhm.
make a step towards your health, both mental, physical, steps. All right. So thank you, Steve.
Thank you for having me. This was a pleasure. I enjoyed it. You asked some great questions, and I think we gave some really good advice that's going to help empower some people to be at their very best.
Yes, yes.